but I'm just trying to show you the way they cover things. Get out there. Having said that, this is something I seldom do. We as a country are taking this seriously. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Mo Ray. This is The Other Side of Talk, and it's like the never-ending story. That is the election of 2020, the presidential election in particular, and a lot of stuff's going on. In fact, I love it when I can do breaking news. If you're watching live within the last hour, former Vice President Biden made a comment to the press, and yeah, that's not where I want it. You're messing with that, aren't you? Okay. Yeah, he's got it. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, I'm talking to my producer. Nick is in the house, and it's all right. It's all right. But within the last hour, former Vice President Biden made a very brief statement, and we're going to be talking about the fact that the President of the United States declared victory on election night. Well, actually, it was about 2:30 in the morning Eastern time, and at that point, the polls had only been closed for a handful of hours, and millions, literally millions of ballots hadn't been counted. So I don't know what he was talking about that night. By the way, you've heard the legal challenges are coming, and they are indeed. President wanted to stop the vote count in Michigan. A judge said nope, and a judge also said the same in, I forgot that state. I believe that was Georgia. Yes, the other state where they said proceed. And then in the case of I believe it was Pennsylvania, he was trying to get more access for his people, and that won't affect anything. They're welcome. I think some of this was contrived. According to one guy, they had weeks to get this extra access that they're talking about. So it's not like some evil thing is taking place. But what saddens me is that the president continues to go down this road where he's calling this fraud, where he's casting all kinds of doubts on the system. And unfortunately, a lot of his supporters seem to be believing it if you look at some of the comments on social media. But I wanted to start out, before we move on to the other topics of the day, let's see what former Vice President Biden had to say. But real quick, I want to give you the number if you'd like to join the conversation. The number here is 330-595-1600. I would love to hear from you. And let's see what Joe Biden had to say.
Harris and I just completed briefings on both COVID and the economic crisis facing this nation. And we're reminded again of the severity of this pandemic. Cases are on the rise nationwide, and we're nearing 240,000 deaths due to COVID. And our hearts go out to each and every family that has lost a loved one to this terrible disease. In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon. So thank you all for your patience, but we have to count the votes. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you so much.
some who never voted before, some who haven't voted in years. They came out to get rid of Donald Trump. This, make no mistake about it, this election is a referendum on the presidency of Donald Trump, which may be coming to an end very soon. But not to hear the president tell it on election night, as I said, roughly around 2:30 Eastern time, the president of the United States made the following remarks.
The American public, this is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it.
All right, President Trump, as we anticipated, falsely and prematurely declaring victory, saying that he won. He did not win. He has not won. The president falsely depicting the counting of votes as a fraud and an embarrassment. That is not what is going on. What is going on is the normal democratic process. Almost everything President Trump said in his declaration of victory was not true. It is true that he is ahead in the polls right now in Georgia and North Carolina. Whether or not Biden will ever catch up is a matter for Georgia and North Carolina and their election officials to decide. It is not true that he is winning Pennsylvania or winning Michigan or winning Wisconsin. They are still counting votes. They have literally millions of vote-by-mail ballots that those 3 states are counting. It may well be that President Trump ends up winning this election. That might be once the ballots are counted. But what President Trump just said was undemocratic and false and premature. It is.
And welcome back. And apologies for some technical problems we had. We got that fixed. Thanks for alerting me. I'm looking at the comments. No sound, Mo, says Debbie. And Lori says, can't hear you speaking. Well, we fixed that. And she says fixed. And I thank you. And by the way, if you'd like to call, the numbers are, well, there's only one number, 330-595-1600, and that'll get you through. And that'll probably be the longest clip we play today. And I just added Jake. I was going to cut it right after Trump finished his tirade, but I decided to. I think Jake Tapper made some excellent points, and that was on election night. Actually, technically, the Wednesday morning at 2:30, a little early to be claiming victory. And once again, he is sowing the seeds of discontent, the seeds of, hey, there must be something wrong here. And I just think that is so. To me, that's an act of desperation by a guy who knows that he's losing. The very the tallies that he seems to dismiss are surely scaring him to death. And that's why he feels compelled to make these baseless accusations and to threaten legal action. By the way, another thing, when he talks about taking everything to the Supreme Court, well, it doesn't work that way, even for the president. You've got to go up the ladder. So if you remember, those of you who are old enough, back in 2000, when there was a contested election between Al Gore and George W. Bush, it was actually December before we had a president-elect. So so far, the president's court challenges have not been going very well for him. So we'll see how this plays out. Very likely because of Wisconsin law, Biden beat Trump by less than 1% of the vote. So there's an automatic recount that takes place in Wisconsin. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think, as one of the experts that I heard say this, we're probably talking about hundreds of votes as opposed to thousands if there's any discrepancy. So that won't make any major difference. But like I said, I'm not worried. Let the president go through his phases, and then let everything blow up in his face, because a lot of the federal judges that he's approaching, or that his legal team is approaching, are dismissing this stuff because there's nothing there. As I said, Michigan is a win, definite. Those votes count. That's over. Of course, he may contest it in another fashion. Wisconsin, as I just said, that's in his column, Joe Biden's column, I should say. And let's see. Well, we may know something. Yeah. Let's take a look at the map from the Associated Press, which is excellent, by the way. And so there you have. Now, I want to explain one thing about Arizona. You notice Arizona is blue there, and in some news sources have not called Arizona yet, even though 88% of the vote is in Arizona. They've not called it yet because there's still remaining votes, and it could change the trajectory of this race. But we'll see. But Nevada, now they could take as long as, we may know something tomorrow, but I just heard a report saying that they could take as long as Saturday before we know there. But if Trump, if you see what Georgia is, if you see Georgia there, it's pink because it's definitely leaning red. But there are a whole lot of votes in the Atlanta area that haven't been counted yet, and Atlanta is very black and very Democratic, and I think that that's going to be a benefit for Joe Biden. So Georgia is somewhat in play. I think North Carolina is gone. I think that's going to go Trump, I believe. But like I said, if Nevada goes to Biden, that's going to put him in a good place. This map, he needs 270, and I'm sure most of you know that number by now, but the magic number is 270 for Joe Biden, and he's at 264. That's including Arizona in the win column. Arizona has 11 electoral votes, and so even if you take Arizona out of it, that still leaves Biden at what, 253? So he's in the ballpark. He's knocking on the door, and we may have an answer from Pennsylvania tonight, some people are saying. Let's see. Can you scroll down a little bit on the map? Because I think there was it broke it down a little better. No scroll. There we go. All right. So here, that's the totals I want to look at, where you got your state numbers, and it's razor thin. And I know you're going to be hearing that term a lot in the next few days. But in the case of Georgia, look at that. We're talking about basically 2 decimal points between Trump and Biden, with Trump having the 0.2% advantage. In the case of Nevada, it's almost a dead heat as well, but the advantage there goes to Joe Biden. In North Carolina, as I said, looks like it's going Trump's way. Pennsylvania right now is going Trump's way. But as I stated, there are about 400,000 ballots from the metropolitan areas, and those would benefit Joe Biden. Arizona, the Associated Press and Fox News, of all organizations, have already called Arizona for Joe Biden, but other news organizations have not followed suit. CNN or none of the mainstream guys, ABC, NBC, CBS, have called that state yet. But it looks like it's definitely going his way. Case of Florida, done deal. That is Trump's prize. But I want to talk about something else real quick that didn't play out like I'd hoped it would, and like the Democrats hoped it would, and like the pollsters told you it would. One thing, no, you can go back to me. Oh, that is me. All right. Okay. Yeah, it looks familiar. But anyway, the thing is, the Senate race, it looked like the Senate was going to be an easy flip. It's still within reach. There are 3 races to watch. Well, one thing's for sure, Mark Kelly won in Arizona, so that's nice. A lot of people, forget that was John McCain's state. And I was talking to a lady on on Facebook, and she said maybe John McCain is smiling down from heaven. And I said, yeah, that just like he torpedoed Trump's attempt to get rid of Obamacare, maybe the angel of John McCain gave Donald Trump one more thumbs down. And that was in his home state of Arizona. We'll see. Yeah, you know, like I said, yet to be fully decided, but looks like it's going Biden's way. And but the Senate races, Susan Collins was supposed to be toast in Maine, and she pulled it out. So Susan Collins remains. There's a runoff in Georgia between Kelly Loeffler and I forgot his first name, but Reverend Warnock, I believe is his name. He is actually the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. That's the church that Martin Luther King preached at. And well, we'll see what happens. Very close race there. What really disturbed that race was there was a third-party candidate that drew a few votes away, but they won't be a factor in the runoff. The runoff won't take place until December, so there's a lot going on here. But the bottom line is this. So here's the possible scenario. The best case scenario would have been if the Democrats could have flipped the Senate. You would have had a Democratic president if Biden prevails, and then he would have had a Senate he could work with. But if this Senate doesn't flip, then Joe Biden will still have to deal with the self-described Grim Reaper, and that is the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, who won his race in Kentucky. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. A lot hanging in the balance. But I wanted to go back to Joe Biden. This was Joe Biden on election night. I want you to notice a stark contrast. There's no declaration of a win. I'll let Joe Biden speak for himself.
Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround. We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. Yes. I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County.
And so there you go. That was election night for Joe Biden. And there's a whole lot of contrast there. And one of the contrasts I have been talking about is the fact that the Democrats chose to pretend there's actually a pandemic taking place. And they've had their rallies. You know, Trump's made fun of him because he hasn't had the big crowds that Trump has. Well, I think it's stupid to have big crowds in the middle of a pandemic. One study from, I believe that was Stanford University said that 60,000 coronavirus cases can be traced back to Trump rallies, 700 deaths. So, hey, I'm glad everybody had a good time, but no thank you. You know, it doesn't matter if you got a crowd that looks like Woodstock with less naked people if you're killing people. So that's why you hear the horns honking. The Democrats have chosen to be responsible. But and Debbie says Atlanta equals Beverly Hills. Well, it is. I mean, it actually, from my experience, Atlanta reminded me of Dallas in a way. I grew up in Texas, and it's a very similar vibe, except very much. Some people even call Atlanta Chocolate City. Very obvious black majority there, but definitely a vital city, and a vital city in this race for Joe Biden. Let's take a look at this is the legal analyst for NBC, and he's particularly talking about, and this is just from this morning's Today Show, and he's talking about, let me see, we'll start out with him talking about Nevada and Arizona.
Vote.
Yeah, I think that probably the first place where there's potential for real significant vote is in Nevada. It's going to, at noon, they've actually told us that they will give us, there's 150,000 votes out in Clark County. It's all mail ballots, so should be good for Biden. The lead there is razor thin. We want to see what those votes look like, because there's only 200,000 votes out, 150,000 of them are there.
Yeah, and it's a 7,000, 8,000 margin right now.
It's super tight. A lot of people are waking up this morning and they're looking on their news feeds and they're seeing that Arizona went to Biden. I mean, because I've had friends who are asking me, like, how come you guys don't have that yet? Tell us what's going on with Arizona.
Yeah, we're just waiting to sort of look what comes out of Maricopa. There's about 400,000 votes out. We know a couple people have actually called that, but they called that like on election night, and we knew that race was going to go razor tight. It still looks like Biden definitely has an advantage there. We got some votes in last night. They did trend Trump, but they didn't trend enough. He needs to win 57% of the remaining vote. That's an uphill climb for him.
Okay, so that's Arizona. By the way, we're going to talk to the Arizona Secretary of State.
All right. That is, and that's John Lipinski, and that was NBC News, and that was obviously Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie. And anyway, so that's Arizona and Nevada looking good for Joe Biden as well. It's just amazing to me, though. Some of these people, some of the comments I've seen, it's unbelievable. If Trump were ahead, you probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But these people, but what can you expect when you have a president who is standing there telling you that the whole thing is rigged, and that there's something irregular taking place because we didn't have a winner on election night, when for weeks all the pollsters, I shouldn't say the pollsters, all the election officials have been telling you that we probably wouldn't know on election night. And somebody last night on Facebook was saying, I've known the winner every night all my life. And I said, no, that's not true. You didn't know the winner in 2000 with Gore versus Bush. America's short-term memory is really messed up. So don't let this guy talk you into panic. Now, those of you who are just staunch Kool-Aid drinkers, nothing I can say will persuade you. If you want to let this president tell you that you can't trust our institutions, but like I've said earlier, he's made a pattern of that throughout this presidency. You can't trust the FBI. You can't trust the CIA. You can't trust the NSA, but you can trust Putin. You can't trust our elections unless he's winning. I think there's a really scary pattern here. And I heard a guy on the way in on NPR. He was a professor, a historian. He's got a new book out, and he was just expressing his fears for what would happen if Trump loses, what he could do in a lame duck period from between November or December and January. He could pardon everybody and his mother. He might even pardon himself. That would be a first. It's a gray area in presidential politics. No president has ever pardoned himself, but this guy, I could see him doing it. I didn't even think about that. But Donald Trump has no moral compass. He likes to break presidential norms. So, yes, he could do that. And, of course, there'd be a flurry of executive orders. And, of course, there would be, all kinds of things he could do. The one thing he can't do, though, there are state charges that he would be facing as citizen Trump. And he can't pardon himself from those. He can only pardon federal charges. But let's remember, that's why I always laugh when I hear the Trump crowd talking about lock her up or lock him up, when there are 7 former Trump associates that are felons, including one that's sitting in prison right now, including his former fixer for 10 years, Michael Cohen, who just got out of prison. All the corrupt activity, all the real corrupt activity where charges have been filed, where people have gone to jail, that's all on Trump's side of the ledger. So I don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to, Hillary needs to be locked up and all this. There are no charges against Hillary. I'm sorry. She dodged that bullet, and that is that. But let's see what the president has to say. No, actually, this was the historian. This was an historian. Bye-bye, Freddie. Hey, we'll see you. All right. And let's see what this is a historian, and his name is Alan Lichtman, and he has predicted the winner of every presidential race since 1984. And here's his prediction on 2020, and he's being interviewed by Martha McCullum on Fox News.
Predicted the outcome of every presidential race since 1984. Historian Alan Lichtman was one of the only election forecasters who predicted that Donald Trump would win the White House back in 2016. President Trump even sent him a note of congratulations on a copy of the Washington Post article about his prediction. Joining me now with his forecast for 2020, Alan Lichtman, distinguished professor of history at American University. Professor, thank you very much for being here. So I'm sure everybody would like to know what your prediction is this time around and how you arrived at your prediction.
Right. My totally nonpartisan system generates predictions, not endorsements. And the way it works is it's called the 13 Keys to the White House. And it gauges the strength and performance of the party holding the White House, Trump, of course, right now. And that means that it is governance, not campaigning, that counts. Imagine that. And the way the system works, if 6 or more keys go against the White House party, they are predicted losers. Any 6. That's how I was able to predict Trump in 2016, because the Democrats had exactly 6 keys out against him. However, this time I have a different prediction. Now that Trump is the incumbent, he has 7 keys out against him. And my prediction is that Donald Trump will become the first sitting president since George H.W. Bush in 1992 to lose a re-election bid, and Joe Biden will become the next president of the United States.
So I bet the Fox News audience spit their coffee out on that one. So there you have a guy who predicted Trump winning last time on Fox News, telling them that everything indicates that the president will lose. Well, of course, the electoral tally so far would indicate that the president is on a losing path. I want to take a look at those keys he was talking about. And let's remember, this guy he's got a heck of a record. 1984, he's been right every presidential election. But the mandate key. Let's see, what was the mandate? I think a lot, I forgot what some of these means, but the bottom line is this. They feel we can figure some of these out. He's had a number of scandals. His military and foreign success have been mixed. A lot of our allies don't even like us anymore. I played that clip the other day of the Germans 2 days before the election, taking Trump's statue out of the Madame Tussauds Museum in Berlin. We're not. He was nominated for, but didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize because he's so popular over there. So another thing, social unrest. There's another key that is working against him, and we definitely got a lot of that. And the incumbent charisma. Put another way, a lot of people are just sick and tired of Donald Trump. The word I always use is exhausting. One Sunday before 10:30 in the morning, he tweeted 50 times, literally. I mean, when does this guy work? I understand it was a Sunday, but he also tweets quite a bit during the week, and when he's not golfing or watching Fox News. But so that does not bode very well for the president. Let's see. Oh, just a little side note, totally unrelated to the presidential race. I noticed this in USA Today, and I'll just read it and not show you. Well, yeah, we can do it that way. But the bottom line is this. Americans were waiting for clarity on the presidential race Wednesday morning. Perhaps lost in the most frantic haze of election night was the legalization of recreational marijuana in 4 states: Arizona, New Jersey, South Dakota, and Montana all passed legislation Tuesday permitting the possession of weed by adults, which means 15 states have legalized recreational weed or voted to legalize it. South Dakota and Mississippi passed initiatives to allow medical marijuana, which means 36 states permit the legal distribution of medical weed, according to a tally by NORML, a nonprofit marijuana public advocacy group. Okay, and that's enough there. Oh, by the way, a bonus there. Oregon actually passed magic mushrooms, but of course they can only be because actually they've been used with people with PTSD and severe depression. So we'll see how that works out, and if the feds take any action against it. But here's the thing with marijuana, that it's so odd that marijuana remains a Schedule I drug, which means that it's ranked as dangerous as heroin, whereas cocaine, which is far more dangerous, is a Schedule II drug because it actually has medical purposes. But wait a minute, you just heard that 36 states have medical marijuana. So by definition, there must be some medical benefit. It's being prescribed by doctors. So why is it, if a Schedule I drug is there because it's dangerous and has no medical purpose, how can a drug that is being used medically in 36 states not be a Schedule II at the very least? And this is what's holding marijuana back. And the people in the business like to say cannabis. This is what's holding the cannabis industry back. These guys have to do cash-only transactions, large amounts of money, ridiculous taxes, because it's not legal at the federal level. If it were legal at the federal level, then they could use regular banks and do normal business, and I think it would boost the business tremendously. But if you think about it, I was surprised to see Mississippi even went for a medicinal marijuana, because there's really very little legal cannabis in the Bible Belt. That is down south of the Mason-Dixon line. Very rare. The state of Texas, no. Louisiana, no. Alabama, no. But Mississippi's going to do it. Florida said no, too. But maybe they'll take another run at it. But just to get away from that. But I also want to play a clip from a source called Now This. And I play a lot of stuff from them. They lean left for sure. But I think this is a point. I think these are comments by Van Jones, CNN contributor. And I posted this on Facebook and Twitter. What I said was it's my exact words I forget, but it was something to the effect of the American people have 4 years of Donald Trump's lying, pettiness, and cruelty. And for this race to be this close speaks volumes about this country. And Van Jones pretty much summed my thoughts up on that.
I think a lot of Democrats are hurt tonight. There's a moral victory and there's a political victory. They're not the same thing. The political victory still may come. But I think for people who saw babies being snatched away from their mothers at the border, for people who are sending their kids into schools where the N-word is now being used against them, for people who have seen this wave of intolerance, they wanted a moral victory tonight. We wanted to see a repudiation of this direction for the country. And the fact that it's this close, I think, it hurts. It just hurts. I think people got their hopes up looking at those polls. The political victory, I think, is still possible because you still have Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Nebraska too. The political victory may yet come. But I think I have to be honest tonight that I think there were people who were hoping for a big repudiation, and that has not yet come. And a lot of people are hurt and scared tonight in the Democratic Party.
Senator
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what he said there. I think a lot, but as I said, this is pretty much a referendum on the presidency of Donald Trump, and looks like the American people are saying, So, but we'll know for sure real soon. By the way, I thought it was remarkable that the state of Ohio definitely went for Donald Trump. It's a red state, and for the first time since I believe the 72. Thank you. First time since 1972, Mahoning County went red. So that just doesn't happen. But I'm trying to understand what they're rewarding him for, because we really have lost a lot of jobs here. I know that he couldn't control GM, but let's remember, this is the guy who said, don't sell your houses, and all these jobs are coming back. And it's really going the opposite way. I mean, there is some progress, like out in Lordstown with the Lordstown Motors and with the battery plant and with the TJX facility that's going to employ about 1,000 people. But at the end of the day, while our neighbor in Michigan, by the way, I saw where, I won't say who said this on Facebook, but they said they're going to start rooting for Michigan as opposed to Ohio State because Ohio State went red. I guess I'm trying to say, if you're gonna, I don't usually do this, but I can't not say this because I really don't understand why Ohio went. Oh, by the way, another related story. Did you see where Larry Householder, the former Speaker of the Assembly down in Columbus, was actually reelected? Here's a guy who screwed the state of Ohio out of $68 million, and his people reelected him. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, Ohio, I guess you're proving that a Buckeye is a worthless nut. Anyway, I won't use props. I'll leave that to Carrot Top. But anyway, that is a real Buckeye. But speaking of nuts, let's take a look at, this is the president's personal advisor, but there's a special effect here that I don't know how they pulled this off, but listen to, she's calling for angelic reinforcement to save the presidency of Donald Trump. This is Paula White.
And strike 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 until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven. In the corridors of heaven, victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda aka ata raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rike didi ashata. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus. From South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Pika hata anda ata. Ora bata rata anda eke eke manda rasata. For I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory.
I hear something, but I'm not sure if it's a sound of victory. But as I said, that's the president's spiritual advisor. And I'm not mocking Faith. She is one of those prosperity preachers. She thinks God wants everybody to be rich. Well, what I always notice about a lot of those prosperity types, they seem to be the only ones that prosper. Paula, and I did look it up today, Paula White is worth $5 million. And she is not being paid. I erroneously put out on Twitter that she was on our tax dollar. She was on our dime. No, she's not. Although she works as Trump's spiritual advisor and does outreach to the evangelicals, which I don't get that because they're already in his pocket. But she is not paid by us. But interesting. But related to religion, also this morning, this is something else that I see. And Joe Scarborough was talking about the fact that there's a victim mentality among some Christians. I'm sure you've heard it, like on Tucker Carlson and other shows on Fox News, where they make it sound like Christians are under siege, when the exact opposite has actually taken place with the Supreme Court over the past few years. But let Joe Scarborough tell you the same thing.
Among the most interesting American experiments we've ever done, and it has to be done.
Well, there's also, I know you just have to add in there, and I say this as a guy who was a Republican for 20, 25 years, so much of that also comes from just an overwhelming sense of victimhood. I swear if I hear one more friend of mine who's an evangelical talking about they're coming for us and the persecuted church, and I politely and gently remind them that over the past 5 years, no Supreme Court in the history of this republic has done more to protect religious rights than has the Roberts Court. And I could go down one ruling after another after another. You know what? I can't help you with what's on TV. I can't help you with what's on at the movies. I can't help what your kids are watching on iPhones. I can't help what your kids are streaming on your television sets at home, or many of the other challenges that we all face with teenage children. But to suggest that somehow this federal government is hostile to faith and we must vote for Donald Trump to protect Christendom is one of the stupidest arguments I've ever heard in my life. Look what the Supreme Court has done on religious liberty, specifically protecting religious liberty of conservative Christians. People.
And Joe Scarborough, and you know, that is one of my pet peeves when I hear these people, you know, Americans, even though people are going to church less and that kind of thing, this country is overwhelmingly composed of Christians. And, you know, I think what some of these people feel that they're under attack because of social changes that are taking place. Let's face it, they are losing the social war. I mean, where you have a greater acceptance of homosexuality, that kind of thing makes them nervous. Where you have, now you have, you know, the funny thing was, and I know, yes, I know you're listening. A friend of mine, her daughter was visiting, and her daughter just got married, and her daughter just got married to another woman. And, you know, it just kind of ran by real quick, and it didn't register right away. And it was kind of like those cartoons where I kind of went, blah, 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 you know, it's like I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But you know what? That young lady's been through a whole lot. And I don't care who she's married to as long as she was happy, because I saw that young lady who had problems with drugs. I even interviewed her on my old radio show. And I saw her, I remember actually taking care of her daughter for a few minutes while her mom's life was hanging in the balance. And now her eyes are bright, she's happy, and I don't care who she's married to. If that person makes her happy, that doesn't bother me. And by the laws of the United States of America, that marriage is a legal marriage. If you have a problem with it, then hey, just don't be gay. That's all I got to say. I mean, there's nobody making you. You don't have to follow suit. I'm just saying, live and let live. I don't know what's so hard to understand about that. I do understand that it's not as easy as that because, you know, of course, you had the famous case of the Christian baker who wouldn't bake the cake for the gay guys and all that. I get it. There's a lot of little threads to this whole thing. But at the end of the day, I don't worry about somebody being with somebody else they want to be with, because that's kind of hard to find in today's world in particular. But there's my editorial about that. Let's go back to the NBC predictions, though. And this was, as I said, from this morning on the Today Show. And the guy's name is John Lipinski. He is their expert. And this is what he had to say about what he thinks is coming in Pennsylvania.
On what we are seeing with the election results we have, what to expect, what votes are still out there. There's one guy who is all over that. It's John Lipinski. He's the director of elections for NBC News. If you wondered where the NBC News boiler room is and who mans it, it's John Lipinski, and here he is in the flesh. So, John, where are you watching this morning? Where are we expecting more vote? You want to listen to that one, too. We'll see how many votes she says they've got outstanding. Let's just march through the map. How about Pennsylvania? Chuck tells me you're a Pennsylvania native. That Philadelphia County has been sitting there at approximately 70% counted for a long time, it seems. Are they not counting? What's going on? And when do you expect to see something?
Yeah, they're counting. We expect to see vote today. And that 70% might be, that's an estimate. And so that's sort of dependent upon what they're telling us. And right now, I actually think turnout might be a little light in Philadelphia. I mean, I know we've been hearing from a lot of politicians that it might be high. I think it's going to be a little light. I think it's actually going to be really, really close in Pennsylvania. It's really too hard to know right now who will win that. The votes are trending Biden, but we'll see.
All right.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is interesting. As I said, now they're saying that we may know by the end of this day, or at least by before tomorrow morning, we may know which way Pennsylvania is going to go. So, and as you saw on that earlier map, it's trending toward the president right now, but that there's a lot of city votes that have yet to be counted. So that could change everything. And if Biden takes PA, that's pretty much game over, because anyway, you saw where he's at. He's just a few votes away, electoral college votes away from that 270 magic number. But by the way, as we're looking at things, there's also been some upheaval out there, some people on both sides. Leave it to Fox News to always, we'll go on this, Fox News coverage of some of the riots that took place. But even that, I don't know. It seems like it's a little over the top, but you tell me. This is Fox News from Fox and Friends.
Election protests intensifying as thousands take to the streets, demanding that every vote be counted. Ainsley.
Ashley Strohmeyer is live with the chaos erupting in cities across our country. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Ainsley, police clashed with a mob of protesters in various cities across the country last night. Now, it was peaceful at first. They raised Biden campaign signs and then chanted, "Count the vote," but then it got completely out of control. 60 people ended up being arrested in New York City for setting fires, spitting in officers' faces, and even punching an NYPD chief in the face. Police also found weapons and loaded magazines during an arrest. Now, in Detroit, protesters were furious over the lack of access to the ballot counting process. Officials ended up padlocking those doors so they couldn't get in. Those protesters were chanting, "Stop the vote," following news of the president filing that lawsuit in Michigan. And a riot was declared in Portland because of widespread violence. And then in Philly, the protests were twofold. They were calling for racial and political justice. That follows the release of body camera footage in the police shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. Listen.
Down! Get him! Put the knife down! Shoot him! Move! Put the knife.
And following that release, thousands are demanding those officers involved be arrested. There were also protests in Maricopa County, Arizona. That's where the protesters were also demanding to get inside to watch those ballots be counted. Steve, Ainsley, Brian.
Wow. Right. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Yeah. And yeah, so wow. You think they shot that guy enough? That was a situation where the guy had a knife, and he was, I believe his problem was he needed lithium. So what are we talking about? He was the thing. Why am I stuck there? Where you hear voices and all that. That was his problem. And please excuse the quality of this clip, but this was actually put together by a guy on TikTok, a guy named Dominic Nardone, and he did a mashup of Donald Trump's famous dance moves when he dances to YMCA, and he's got Donald Trump dancing with Elaine from Seinfeld. And some things have to be seen to be believed. Oh, there we go. Well, I don't see a starting point. Looks like we're just going to be looking at legs. Yeah, tell you what, we're not even going to do that. Don't worry about it. We're not. It's not framed right. Welcome back. So no. Okay. Yeah. That just maybe I'll find another source for that. But yeah, that was just too large to fit on the screen. Let me real quick. I'll look at some of the comments, and I guess that's relating to Paula White. Randy said, "Hi, Mo," but then he also says WTF. And Tracy, my neighbor, says, "Is she insane?" And well, I don't know, but that's where we are, folks. It's time for me to get out of here. I know kind of a hectic show all over the place, but I got a funny feeling I feel that by the time I see you again on next Tuesday, we will have a new president-elect all ready to go. But we shall see. Of course, as I said, legal challenges abound, but I think Joe Biden will have his 270 very soon. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Nick, for making everything go so smooth. And I'm Mo Ray saying, as I always do, keep your eyes on the prize.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.